Welcome back to Beards and Brews. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and make sure you ring that bell so you know when we have another one brewing. This week's movie is going to be The Adventure of Baron Munchausen. Gentlemen, what'd you think?
Well, this is the first time that I'd seen this movie and honestly had only rarely heard of it before this. This is a big adventure and not at all what I was expecting. Don't know what I was expecting. Wasn't this?
Uh, this is a box office flop, but growing up, this movie was a staple in my wheelhouse.
I gotta tell you, I was extremely excited to see this movie because if you guys haven't already, follow us on Instagram. I make little trailers for our show. And like just scrubbing through like clips for this movie, I'm like, man, this looks really cool. It's like, I don't want to say goofy, but I like the art style a lot.
No, I would say it's goofy.
Goofy would be like the best compliment I can give it. This movie suffers, unfortunately. Man, as soon as I saw this was a Terry Gilliam movie, I was like, oh no. This means it's going to be two things. Really good or just like not good. And unfortunately, like I gotta fit into the latter, man. This movie is so awfully paced. it just goes on for a really long time, and I feel real bad because I really wanted to like it. But there's so much stuff happening at the same time, nothing's happening. And then like the rest of his stuff is just like it's so loose. Time Bandits or Brazil or even like 12 Monkeys. Perfect. Like
I love 12
perfectly structured movies. There's a ton of imagination and there's some great stuff to look at, but I'm like watching this with my hand in my head. I'm like, please, Robin Williams, kill me.
Yeah.
Robin Williams is one of the biggest detractors from this film, and I thought that even
Really?
as a child.
I'm glad we
Really?
agree on that because like that got annoying and it like overstayed its welcome. I'm just like, okay, they're on the moon. Does this service the plot at all? Let me check. No, okay, we're still on the moon. You know?
See, like, Eric, you said that, it's either going to be really good or really bad. I thought it was really somewhere in the middle, but the Robin Williams bit, especially like the early part of the Robin Williams bit, that was one of the most enjoyable parts of the movie for me because I was like, all right, this guy is doing, probably cocaine, doing a lot of stuff, but he's doing it.
Yeah, he's definitely playing Robin Williams in this
For
movie.
sure.
Like they just slapped some bullshit silver makeup on his face. It didn't even cover his skin. It was kind of funny. They were like, here, just go act goofy. Go act like you got your head chopped off in Wild Wild West. You'll do fine.
It was like a genie rehearsal for Aladdin.
100%.
Oh,
100%.
absolutely. Genie vibes for sure. Because he's doing the wacky stuff. He's got a couple impressions in there.
Mm-hmm.
And the more I think about it, I think I enjoyed his part like a little more than I'm given credit for. But like, he just overstayed its welcome. At least that part. We'll get into it.
I do agree with you that part did overstay its welcome a little bit, especially when it went back to it, like with the... We'll get to it, like you said, but I did find it probably, aside from a handful of lines here or there, the peak of enjoyment for this movie for me. But, okay, what is this movie? How do we get to where we're going?
That's a good question. Because it's almost like a movie within a play within a play. You have layers. It's like an onion.
To me, the way that I interpreted it is Munchausen is this mythical figure, and what else can they do besides dedicate a play to him? He comes in, isn't happy with the play, begins to tell it himself, and he is so masterful at telling it, everyone lives it. And the result happens because whatever, but wow.
That's actually what the best thing this movie has going for it, because as you said, like during the movie, like the play is going on, the Barry Munchausen play. This is how about his fantastic adventures. And the dude just rolls up like, "Hey, fuck is this?" You know?
That wasn't how it happened.
My nose isn't nearly that big, or some nonsense or whatever he played.
The sausage bushes didn't look like that.
Yeah, he's just being silly about it. And I really like the juxtaposition because like they're trying to put on this masterful play. Like the props that they have and the mechanics that they use are brilliant, even if they're just the show in the movie. I'm like, wow, they spent a lot of time in doubloons on this, right? And he just rolls in and burns the place to the ground.
Before we get started, when is this movie supposed to take place? This is in the middle of a siege between, I'm guessing, the English and the Turks, but are we in England? It seems like almost medieval, or like, I don't know. When is this supposed to happen?
It's whatever. Like, if Time Bandits has shown me anything, time is but a window. Don't worry about it.
But yeah, we're somewhere in that old time period, and there's a play getting put on. And like you said, the star of the show in reality just comes in and is like, what the fuck's all this? Let me tell you actually how this shit happened. And also in the middle of all this is the city that they're in actually under siege. So if I'm to understand this correctly, they're putting on a play in the middle of a war, like in a siege of that same city.
I think there's like a little bit of political commentary, a lot of political commentary in this moment, because they also have like the chancellor dude who's just like, "Oh no, I've got everything under control. Just let me watch this play as the war is literally at our door."
Yeah, that's his nonsense way of doing it. Like, oh, no, 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 no. If we were at war or in any danger, how could we be having this play right now? Look, I'm even here.
Yeah, that's circle logic. Flawless.
By the way, we've got a couple of guys in here that I only know from like one role pretty much, and it's not this role. Our star of the show, Baron von Munchausen or whatever his name is, that's that one guy from the X-Files. I don't know his name, but it's the one guy.
I had to look the fella up on IMDb, and he's the general guy from The Fifth Element.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
That's the closest line that I could draw with something we could all be familiar with. Other than that, he's just like, he's a character actor. He'd been working for like 60 years of his life, so he's done a ton of shit.
We've also got the High Sparrow from Game of Thrones making another appearance on the cast.
Yeah.
He was just here a couple weeks ago with Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yep, the dad from Pirates of the Caribbean.
The governor. And he plays a French little kind of an asshole in this movie, doesn't he? He ends up being like the bad guy almost.
Yeah, it's a little redundant, but you're right.
He looks like a little rip-off Napoleon.
Yeah, he does, for sure.
Yeah. Well, Terry Gilliam is, from Monty Python. You also have Eric Idle in the movie too, being my favorite part of the movie, because he has moments where he's like, wait a minute, this is just all ridiculous. And everybody's just like, yeah, you're right. Moving on!
Yeah.
Yes. And I can greatly appreciate that. And he goes, so you left me here for 20 fucking years, just threw me away, and now you show up because it suits your plan, and I'm supposed to just go with you? Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, one of my, as you guys know, I'm a big dialogue guy, and one of the things just like running along that I enjoyed was the dialogue. It wasn't always great, but the times when it hits, it does hit really well.
The nonsensical nature of like some of the lines are really good, like especially when they're like trying to rope down from the moon. Just that whole bit where just like, wait a minute, what? Whatever, I'll trust this guy.
Yeah, there's very, very, very cartoonish things happening at all times, like Merry Melodies cartoony.
Yeah, very like Wile E. Coyote sometimes.
And the first thing we get of that is like Munchausen himself, like after he stormed into this place and just made a basic ass of himself in front of everybody because they portrayed him the wrong way, whatever you want to call it. He's literally backstage willing to murder anybody who walks up to him in a mean way just because they asked him to leave.
Yeah. I mean, this movie is 100%. I can sum it up for you. A dementia patient takes a play hostage and explains that he's a war criminal while telling war stories.
There was several times during this viewing that the missus was just like, is this just a fever dream?
Yeah, it's like the movie Big Fish, except if the guy that's telling the stories is actually just kind of an asshole, but he knows he's kind of an asshole, you know?
I'm a dick, but I'm lovable. And they're like, yeah, you are. And he's like, okay.
Yeah.
So story-wise, the Baron comes in and tells everyone, hey, you're at war because I made a bet with this dude and he didn't know I had a bunch of fucking X-Men on my team.
Dude,
and we stole all his everything.
His entire group is like his group of fellows or whatever, or just like basically Team Fortress 2 teammates. You have like the heavy, the sniper, the scout that runs really fast. You got everybody.
And you got the guy that gives great blowjobs. You get it?
Yeah.
Yeah, because of his excessive lung capacity.
And his giant ears for hearing.
Oh, is that what that? Huh.
Yeah, because whenever Bertau falls asleep, he has to put his ears to the ground. He's like, he's asleep 900 miles away. I can hear him snoring next to a tree. Not only can he hear very well, but he knows exactly what that man snoring 900 miles away sounds like.
Huh.
It's an acquired skill, I guess.
Finely tuned.
I've listened to way too much rock music for that. The rock and roll, it'll get you.
Story-wise, it goes all over the place because he's got the Turks at the door once again. It's his fault, and this little girl is the only person who's wanted to listen to and or believe in him in a long time, which makes him feel young and useful.
I forgot what her name was, but according to this flyer, her name is Ann Sun.
Yes, she is just the daughter of said playwright.
Yeah, she's like the daughter of the guy who was on stage portraying Baron Munchausen, but not the actual Baron Munchausen. To me, she just looks like Dakota Fanning in that one movie, War of the Worlds, the movie in which she is incredibly insufferable. She's way less insufferable in this.
Yeah,
Not that they're the same person, but
I love how every time you reference Dakota Fanning, it's like, yes, Dakota Fanning, star of that awful War of the Worlds film from 2000, whatever.
yeah,
she'll never
like,
get under it.
as a movie, I don't think it was that terrible. I think she was terrible in it, though.
That's fair. So he makes a bet with the Sheik or whatever, the Iron Sheik,
The Sultan in his onion head hat.
Oh man, that has some play later. And it's a fucking fantastic transition, and that's all that as a child I remember about this movie is, number one, the sets. There is never a set that doesn't look like it should truly exist. They knock it out of the fucking park.
That's something that I have to give and take from director Terry Gilliam, because I feel like he and I share a lot of brain power, because he has this fantastic vision in his head. And there are moments in this movie that are brilliant, just visually. To hell with like some of the written stuff later that I don't like, but like as you mentioned, the transition from being a play and the camera turning to like, oh, this is actual wherever we are, then in the same couple of frames the camera shifts and the room is much bigger than it was.
Yeah, they knock it out of the park with that kind of shit, left and right. Some of the most beautiful, visually like stunning shit that I remember as a kid was in this movie, and it's made me appreciate going forward when I talk about practical effects. It's because of things like this when I was a child that makes it so hard to appreciate something that isn't there, when I know that these dudes just took two fake fucking cherubs, ran them on strings, and then presented to me the Venus de Milo in the flesh and made it stunning.
Yeah, that's the thing that kept me going. Like, I kind of had a hard time paying attention, but like every time scenes changed, every time something dramatic happened, the visual aspect had my head turning back to the TV. Like, this is beautiful. We run into that here in this scene. So like the Sultan or whatever and the Baron, they have this like little bet, right? So like if Baron can get a bottle of wine from Venice back to him in an hour, he can have whatever treasure that he can carry up by his strongest man. And of course the Sultan's like, you know what? Sound like a good fella. Full of shit. I like you. I'm going to say yes to that. But if I win, I'm going to cut your head off.
Just because I'm a stickler for geography, he was going to Vienna, not Venice.
Oh, okay. The sausages. Gotcha.
Yep, the sausages. Also, since we're talking about the sets and everything right now, I'm going to give another parallel. I talked about Big Fish just a little bit ago. As far as the look and the aesthetic of the sets and things that we're seeing, what it really reminded me of is, do you guys know I think it translates to A Trip to the Moon or something like that? It was one of like the early short films, very black and white. It came out in like 1902 or something like that. That's what it reminds me of throughout.
Definitely obscure reference, but I understand it. Like if you're listening, it's the one where like the moon has a bullet stuck in its eye.
Yeah.
Just like, what the fuck, dude?
Oh, sacre bleu.
I still just, as I see these things, I love the way they look. Like, it's just such a feel, you know, like, what is that? Labyrinth and Neverending Story. They have that visual cue to pull you in. The movie might not be the best, the lines might not be the best, but you want to watch for the characters and what's happening in the background.
Yeah, definitely Neverending Story vibes. I got a little bit of Princess Bride vibes too. Definitely that, like, not quite childlike, but like, I don't know. There's an action adventure that could be acceptable to a child in here. This isn't necessarily a children's movie, but you know, you can watch it with your kids.
As we were watching, the more I think about this movie has in spades this 80s fantasy look where everything is just clearly handmade, and they had little to no computing power. They didn't need it. Like, through the movie, there's this running, it's not even a gag, it's this thing where, like, you know, Baron Munchausen, he's technically invincible, but death is trying its fucking hardest to get to him.
Oh, yeah.
And death appears several times in just slightly different forms. And just like this, the puppetry and the mechanisms in that alone was just so impressive. I love the art design so much. Like, you don't
Yes.
understand. Like, I hope I can convey what I'm feeling, because I don't like this movie. It's 2 hours and I was trying real hard to get through it. But at every turn, at every zenith that it had, it gave me something to appreciate. You know, like not necessarily like it's almost all production. It's almost like I really love the idea that Terry had for the movie, but like I just don't like the execution. It's almost like how I used to feel about Blade Runner. Like, man, I really want to fucking love this movie, but there's something that's keeping me at arm's length. And it's just like, no, man.
I almost universally agree with everything you just said. The aesthetic is super appealing. It's visually very interesting. But another thing that I do appreciate a little bit, maybe more than you, is the dialogue. Like, it's really good. It's really clever at times. Especially with the little girl. She gives just a lot of these little one-liners that are just like, all right.
Well, I to be honest, like I didn't pay too much mind to the actual dialogue in the movie, because after the whole scene that we're trying to describe when like Eric Idle runs away, and that whole scene of him like charging off and going into the distance is fucking brilliant. But that's all I wanted to do. Like, I didn't really care about the characters. I cared about what little I did, just about the showmanship of the movie, if that makes sense.
Yes, 100%. Like, that's why, more than anything, as a child, that's why I like this, because the scene where you're talking about where he's running away, he runs off screen, and then there's two little Mario style hills in the background, and they've clearly got something on a stick just ripping up and throwing dirt and then doing it on the hill behind it, and it's just lovely to see.
Yeah, it's good because, like, even though, like, I don't know if you guys experiment or anything, but like, it's like the little filmmaker inside us is like, well, I have this idea for an effect. How do I do it in the most effective way? And you look at it, it's like, oh, that's clearly like a little air thing sprigging up some dust or whatever. But as the whole scene comes together in that like little 2-second page, like, oh, that's really cute and clever. I want to see more of that. You know, it's almost tangible in its fantasy.
Yes, that's a great way of putting it.
Okay.
But story-wise, he has to rush off, go do this, and he's fast as fuck. So he has to wear shackles. He's that fast. So he takes off, he gets the wine, he takes a nap, and the Baron's about to get his head cut off, and he's like, oh, can you pardon me for a moment? Whistles for his horse, Red Dead Redemption style, hops upon it, leaps out of, what, 100-foot drop, lands on his fucking feet, no issue, and goes, Berthold's gonna be late. And he's like, nah, don't worry about it. He's like, okay, and goes back upstairs.
And the absurdity on both sides makes this scene, because like clearly that horse could have been Hamburger. And on the flip side, all of his buddies are like, yeah, no problem.
It's a Monday. So Berthold and his team of superhuman people, basically you got the Flash, this dude who's like can blow the wind, Superman minus the flight, and fucking sniper elite guy, and the Baron, who is basically just a cartoon character. He can lift himself up by his own ponytail. Like, that happens later.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay, is that any more ridiculous than the canoe scene in Pirates of the Caribbean?
I think the canoe scene has like a small bit of logic. Like, oh, it's clearly just an air bubble. This is just a goof.
Yeah, this is
all right.
Like, it's not something to dwell on for sure. Like in either instance, don't worry about it. Like I'm just trying to like dance around it.
So he gets back in the nick of time, and the Baron is like, oh well, looks like I'm not going to die. I just got my rat tail cut off. No big deal. And the Sultan's like, I'm a man of my word, as much as your strongest man can carry. And they clean this fucking dude out.
Yeah, the strongest man, fucking 80s style Michael Clark Duncan. Michael Duncan
I was
Clark.
thinking Big Daddy Viscera.
Honestly, when we get into it a little bit more, that guy looks like Mabel.
Yeah, Viscera.
Oh, is that same person?
Same
yeah,
guy.
Okay.
Like,
anyway, he just straps the whole treasury on his fucking back and is like, all right, deuces.
Yeah, like this whole movie, you're thinking like, yeah, okay, maybe he got, taken for all he's worth. Like, what's this war all about? Then I realized, man, Munchausen's just a hustler.
I'm a hustler, baby. Yeah, he really is. He's like, yeah, I got this bet for you, but if I win, I'm wiping you the fuck out. And he does. And Homeboy is like, hey, no, you can't do that.
That dude was so pissed. He takes a guy's sword and immediately decapitates him with it. Like all one swoop, just.
I have that as a note. Decapitates his stooge.
And that's not a running gag, but it pops up a couple times in the movie, and each time it's thoroughly entertaining.
Yeah, they do decapitations in a very fun way. For this one, whenever they cut off the head, he's got a red head wrap, and it trails behind instead of blood going through the air, just fluttering madly, which is fucking super cool.
Yeah, it also harkens back to this whole thing being a stage play, which is exactly what you would do.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah, I
And
didn't even think about it like that. But when you say it like that, the sort of parallels between the stage play and the what we are perceiving is actually happening, it gets another point there.
So this is another one of those transitions, Eric, that me and you enjoyed, where the Sultan is now enraged and basically causing a battle inside of his little area, temple, whatever the hell it is.
Yeah.
And that battle, transition, camera turn, boom, is everything exploding inside the theater because they're under attack from the Turks. And it's brilliant.
And is this where I'm getting maybe a few scenes mixed up? Is this where the girl runs away and is like,
Yes.
I don't know. Okay. This is when she runs away and is like, hey, stop firing on us. Hey, you stop it.
And then he goes and rides some cannonballs.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, for a second, like, being how silly this movie's been so far, I honestly thought her bitching about the situation would have actually helped. Like, hey, you, stop all that firing. They're just like, oh, sorry, mate. It's just, excuse me.
Hey, what'd she say? She said to stop. Oh, should we? Maybe.
Oh, like
No,
two guys
no,
from
no.
Pirates. Just talking to each
Yeah, it
other.
just turns into a Monty Python skit, goofing off.
But
Now-
this scene right here is actually one of my favorite lines, and it comes like kind of early in the movie. But like the girl runs up to Baron Munchausen, and she's like, "What are you doing?" He's just like, "Go away! I'm trying to die."
Yes.
Yeah. As you mentioned before, like, Baron just launched himself through the air with a cannonball. And not only does he deliver a devastating blow to the Turk, he gets pinged off into whatever realm by an oncoming cannonball, and he just rides it back.
I lost my shit because I did not remember this scene, and it actually got like a partial jump out of me because I had just taken a note and I look up and he's loading the cannonballs in, and as soon as he puts them in, it's like boom, it just explodes, and I was like, oh god, Paul Timberman.
Yeah.
But what sold it for me was just the sound effects, like the ridiculous boom from the cannon to get him in the air, but also like halfway is just like that kitchen pan sound, just doop, as he gets like flung back the other way. It's just so Looney Tunes.
My favorite part of this scene is easily when he gets back on and the girl's trying to tell whoever, like her dad or whatever, like, hey, he rode on a cannonball and all this stuff. And they're like, no, stop making shit up. And she's like,
Okay.
no, the soldiers saw it too. Oh, they're dead.
Dude, no.
I was gonna say-
two things happen right here that fucking cracked me up. Number one, he goes and attacks the Turks, single-handedly defeating them with a single cannonball for however long, just so he can continue to tell his tale.
Yeah.
And then whenever he gets back and the girl's like, tell them that's what happened, it's what happened. He's like, no, that's not what happened. You're a liar. And she's like, fuck you, and runs off. He's like, that's not what happened. What I did was way cooler, bitch.
Yeah.
He flew up into the sky 9-10 miles, and he's like, no, you're a liar. More like a mile and a half.
Yeah, but he's got a plan to save the town because the Turks are still attacking. Ladies, please remove all of your knickers. We're going to make a hot air balloon. That's the plan.
And you get the two guards outside, better report this. And they got a fucking steampunk airship, and Baron straight dips out. And
Yeah.
this could have been such a hilarious scene if. Okay, think about this. The entire movie is played out exactly as. He gets in the hot air balloon. Goodbye, beautiful ladies. Thank you for your silken underwear. I'm escaping in a hot air balloon steamship. And then he just fucking sells off. And he's like, nope, fuck that.
I mean, the ladies have like really one throwaway line that kind of got me because he's like, no, thank you, ladies. You're all so beautiful. I'll be back as soon as I can. Dead silence for like a beat. And then like, I think Uma Thurman is just like, I'll never forget you. And it just cuts.
But this little ship that he's flying away on, this little hot air balloon / airship, it reminds me of something that like one of, what are they called? Like Bowser's minions, like Lemmy Koopa. Reminds me of like something they'd have.
I get that, yeah. Most of the art direction just like is very reminiscent of like the in-betweens in Monty Python. It just looks like a drawing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it's a like a pirate ship, but it's got a hot air balloon on it. So that'll come into play a little bit later. Oh, right now? It'll come into play like right now? All right.
Definitely right now, because guess who's there? Death, and he's like, and fucking lightning strikes, and conveniently the airship falls into the water, which then floats through an ocean of stars, just like Pirates of the Caribbean 3 rips off, to appear into the Davy Jones locker. But he appears on the moon with Genie.
Yeah. It was such a smooth transition. As I was watching, it's like, wait a minute. Is that sand now?
Yeah, that's
What?
exactly how I was. It landed in the water, and then I'm watching it, and I'm like, oh, wait. That's fucking sand, isn't it?
He's like, we can't go to the moon. He's like, yes, we can. No problem at all. And as an audience member, too, I'm like, that's bullshit. I don't know what he's talking about. But of course, Futurama style, count down to 10, make it there in 3. We're on the moon.
Yep.
To be greeted by the king of the moon, fucking Robin Williams, just full bore the entire time that he is on screen.
Now, never having seen this movie before, seeing Robin Williams pop up in such a wacky role, at first I was like, okay, all right, let's see what happens. All right, I'm on board with this.
See, at this point, I did not know Robin Williams was in this movie. When he showed up, I was like, oh, holy shit, it's Robin Williams. Because I didn't really know anything about this movie going in. This caused me to go onto the IMDb and check the cast list of this. Turns out that soldier earlier that I thought looked like Sting, that was actually fucking Sting.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Sting's in this.
Yes.
He's like, the whole city's like being burnt down. He's over there just playing fucking bass.
No, he's a wonderful hero that's been doing exceptional things, and then the dad from Pirates of the Caribbean's like, execute him. We can't have people thinking that they can just be exceptional.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's right. Okay.
It's
Damn.
going to ruin the morale for the other soldiers.
I guess that's what happens when you arrest a former policeman.
He was sending out an SOS.
Sending out an SOS.
Now,
Anyway.
Just the
fucking Mr. King of the Moon isn't a big fan of Baron Munchausen, and mind you, he's like gigantic. I guess old Baron, last time he was here, left Berthold so he could try to get some moon lady like Vijay.
Yeah.
Vijay.
Is that you want to call it a crater? I don't know.
Ooh.
Also, if we haven't mentioned it, his head and his body are not together. They are separate
Yeah.
entities.
I know this is just a play. There's a lot of theatrics, but there's a lot of bullshit, and just like there's no rhyme or reason to it. And that's when it starts to like juggle this weird thing of just like, is it entertaining? Is it annoying? Has it gone on for 10 minutes too long?
The answer to all of those questions is yes.
It's just like, okay, of course, Robin Williams' head by itself, very sentient, godlike creature. He rules everything. If he thinks of something, he creates it.
Yeah, he throws the little girl and Baron Munchausen in this little fucking Thunderdome like cage, and that's when he runs into his old buddy Berthold, right?
Who was unfortunately suffering from a really bad case of being old, also amnesia.
He's like, I
Get
don't
that
know
looked at.
you, but I did something bad because I got these shackles on. Hey, look, there's a floating head coming this way. And she's like, hey, yo, my body's getting fucked, but my head detached to come free you.
My head will get fucked too if you into it.
Dude, I lost my shit whenever she was sitting there making all those orgasm sounds, and the girl's like, why is she making those funny noises? And the Baron looks almost dead ass at the camera and goes, someone's tickling her feet. And then he looks to Berthold for like, is that, she gonna buy that?
Yeah, but then like the movie's like, oh no, he's right. She's getting her feet tickled.
Yeah, I think like this has to have been something that I've seen referenced or something before, because that seemed so familiar to me. We pan over and it's just like got a little quill feather tickling her feet in bed. Then Robin Williams is like, "Where'd your head go?" "Oh, it's with the Baron."
I enjoyed the moment of him just like, oh, you're playing the game. Where's your head? Wait a minute.
You're a pillow biter, aren't you?
Hey, what's his response? He jumps on a 3-headed gigantic vulture pigeon robot.
that immediately falls apart in midair. Like, not just like falls apart mechanically, but like violently tears into thirds.
Yeah, he's like, he says something like, "Hey, this head, you get that thing, you get that thing, and then the third thing, you get this thing." I don't even remember what it was. And they all go to those things, but it's only one body, so it just rips itself apart.
Yeah, it amounts to nothing. I think that's the most frustrating thing because they're like, well, that happened. Time to skedaddle.
Yeah,
And they rappel down from the moon on Lady's hair. And he's like, oh, we're all out of rope. And he goes, here, tie this to the bottom. Well, where'd you get it? Well, I got it from the top, of course. They're just like floating in space. And it just like fucking Wile E. Coyote, it doesn't kick in. Gravity doesn't affect them until they all go, oh, yeah, can't do that.
So they fall into Mordor.
Oh, this is when they fall into that volcano and there's
Okay.
giants who aren't actually giants.
Yeah.
My favorite bit is the fucking giant husband. I love him.
The scale, like, I don't know what they did. Like, I don't know if it's like a thing they couldn't just do optically. He's like, hey, you little fellas down there, Baron Munchausen and the Ben Franklin fella, you guys are small. And they're like, yeah, I guess so. It's like, oh, give me your hand. Well, I guess I'm not small anymore.
It was like if forced perspective really happened. So he's looking down. It's like, oh, you're so far away, you're tiny. But if I pull you close to me, you are now larger.
Yeah, and he's like even taller than
indicates
he
that.
was.
Yes, I love because he looks up like, huh?
So inside this volcano is, what is this, a mine? Are these miners?
Yes.
Well, I know
Okay.
that definitely Uma Thurman. She was a minor. And I had to look that up because I was like, wait a minute.
17.
Oh, well, I have to go rewind some thoughts that I've had.
She immediately falls in love with the Baron because he's a fucking suave, dapper Dan kind of dude.
He's a fucking old man.
Uh,
Even when he's young, he's an old man.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
true.
you're
It's
wrong.
like he's like he's straight up made of that old stock.
Speaking of old stock, what I've got here today from North Coast Brewing Company out of Fort Bragg, California, evidently. This is their old stock ale, specifically their 2021 vintage. Ooh. This is not really what I was expecting, to be honest. It's like an auburn color. I don't know what I was expecting, but they call this an old ale. There's a lot of like toffee and like banana flavors. This is thick and heavy. This is a robust boy. It's like a Trappist ale almost. There's a lot of that raisin and like cherry almost, plum, that kind of flavors going on, but it's like deep and alcoholic. This is 11.2% alcohol by volume, so it'll probably only take one for me, but it's just like full of dark fruit and a little rum and a little spice. This is really, really good. Yeah, this is a great beer.
What else is great, for me anyways, is the fact that whenever, old girl falls for Baron, the fucking fire giant dude or whatever the fuck he is, he starts getting mad. Steam's coming out of his ears like Bluto style from Popeye. And he doesn't want to be abusive in any way or too aggressive in any way, since Venus wouldn't like that. So he is yelling at the top of his lungs in an aggressive way, very polite things.
Yes. This whole time, Gimli is just like the easiest distractible fucking dude in the universe. Baron and Uma Thurman are just like floating through the air, being all lovey-dovey, got some cupids around him. Meanwhile, Eric Idle's just like, I'm dance. Look at my dance. Am I dancing for you enough? And he's just like, huh, yes, you are.
He passed performance check.
Yeah.
He gets tired of it eventually, and he's like, "Get out here, you fucking trollop!
You whore! You whore!
You,
Yeah, which is not, that's not a word that I hear a whole lot in PG rated films these days.
This was back in the 80s where the ratings are made up and the points don't matter.
Absolutely.
So they cast them out of Valhalla, or wherever the fuck they're out, and they drop through a hole and land in some water, and they're like, oh, look, an island. And he says, that's not an island. We're going to need a bigger boat.
I almost thought you were going a different way, like, that's not an island. This is an island.
Yeah, that's what I thought you were going with.
Foster's, Australian for fucking beer.
A fucking beer, right? But, I mean, they're not far off. They say that, they get dropped somewhere in the South Seas, like the South Pacific.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that might very well be Australia. Yeah, but it's an island. No, it's a volcano. No, it's a really big fish. Hey, big fish. I mentioned that earlier. But this is actually exactly where we started up at the beginning of the play when the big fish comes up out of the water and swallows them.
Yeah.
That's what they do. That's what happens. They just get swallowed.
So
And
not chew,
it's-
just swallow it.
Just swallow. Inside the fish, there's like a shipwreck city, which is really fucking cool.
Yes, it is. Very much so. This is another moment in the movie where I'm just like, oh man, look at how much time was put into this moment. It just
Yeah.
gets whisked away immediately.
Yeah. But like inside, there's a bunch of people who have survived their ships being swallowed, and they're just fucking playing poker. Like, I guess, man, giving up on it. This is where we are. And he sees his two buddies, Gustav, the large-eared, air-blowing dwarf, and then you have Donald Duck.
Donald Duck Pirate Gandalf. Yep, that's exactly who he is.
Yeah, Gandalf the Duck. This was a weird decision. No, like at the beginning of the movie, he's just like, whatever. He looked like Geddy Lee. He's a sniper. What are you gonna do? But then for the rest of the movie, as the old version, he's just like, and I'm just like, is that the right decision? You know?
There's a lot of decisions made. Some of them right. Some of them 30 years later, the jury is still out on that.
But you know what the right decision is? Snuff. It's
Evidently.
efficacious.
And that's a callback. Is that the word?
Yes.
Because he kept saying something, and I'm like, I don't know what that word is. Is that all right? We'll just go with it.
Well, we have another little bit while they're playing that game, that poker game, where Death is just there, just looming. He's like, "Hey, play my game of cards," and Baron Munchausen's just like, "Yeah, all right."
Yeah, and every time, I don't know if you notice, every time that little Angel of Death character comes around, tries to, steal a soul from Mr. Baron Munchausen, the little girl is the one that scares him off. Like, no, get out of here. Go on, shoot.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
like,
that's her interest in his story is what drives him on.
Oh, it's a
Oh.
metaphor. Because the whole time he's like, "What is this? Does he want to die?" Because he's expressly said a handful of times, "Oh, just let me die," or just whatever.
like Big Fish.
But this came out before Big Fish.
Yeah.
God damn you,
I mean-
copying Big Fish. Big Fish. But
Anyway.
anyways, they get spat out. And thank
No,
God.
they come through the blowhole.
Yeah,
Well,
just like
yeah.
play.
Oh, yeah. That's where he lifts himself out of the water on his horse by his own ponytail, and then even kind of looks at the camera and is like, "Get that boat over here. I can't do this forever."
He's looking at the camera like, yes, I'm doing this. What the fuck are you going to do about it? This is my movie.
I almost kind of wish they went the Simpsons route, where he's like, "I don't want to bore you with my extraordinary circumstance of my escape, but we're here." It's just
Oh,
whatever.
nice.
Don't worry about it.
Well, I did like the line. He goes, "Oh, look, the enemy is here. Oh, should we be scared?" He's like, "No, look at them. They're inviting us to defeat them."
That's pretty good. Like
Yeah, it is.
Baron as a whole, through the movie, he has like ups and downs, but like when he's Baron Munchausen, for
Yeah.
lack of a better term, he's big dick energy. He's so fun when he's like full swashbuckle, full adventure, because the dude straight up walks up to the Turks and just starts murdering people.
Dude, are you talking about whenever he's on his horse and he turns into a carousel of death?
Yes, and he just
Yeah.
decapitates like a dozen people.
But before we get to that point, like one of my favorite little throwaway lines, another one is like, I don't even remember who says it, but they get onto the beach and it's like, oh, it's the Sultan's army. Quick, back in the fish.
This is the big action finale. The team is down on themselves and the Baron's not having it. He goes, "Listen, kid," because the child, even she feels defeated. He's like, "Psh, you're not allowed to give up. You're the one that's supposed to be keeping me going." "Oh, well, I quit." "Well, fuck it. I'm going to go get myself killed unless y'all do something about it." And they rally behind that at the last second, as per usual. And the team gets together in this real fun finale that ends up, like we said, with that carousel of death, which is fucking hilariously brilliant.
Yeah, it's so violent and adventurous and just so over the top in the most fun way possible. Like Baron just like runs into a crowd of fully armed people ready for this man. And he's like, "Tally ho!" and just like obliterates everybody. I feel like this movie walked so pirates could run, that kind of thing.
Yes.
Okay.
Fucking Berthold's out there outrunning a bullet, and he's like trying to grab it, and he's like, "Ow, ow, ow, ow." It's just fucking, like, there's like little touches in there that are just cute.
Yeah, this is a scene that really worked. Like when Barthold was like running as fast as the bullet and trying to catch it, it's just hot. And he's like, "Ow, ow, ow!" Like it's absurd enough, but like him actually just saying, "Ow, it's hot," even though I'm running as faster than the speed of sound, it just makes it hilarious.
Yeah, this is going on, and at the same time, there's a little meeting between the Sultan and the little scummy guy from earlier, the High Sparrow guy,
Yeah.
Yes.
the French guy, and I think this is pretty cute. This is a pretty cute set of lines here.
Mhm.
They're going back and forth. It's like, you must surrender. No, you surrender. We're winning, but we surrendered last time. Okay. well, what about the virgins? Forget about the virgins. We're out of virgins. You're obsessed with the virgins. It seemed very Jerry Seinfeld,
Yes.
but I just
love
love that
the
little back and
virgins.
forth.
Oh shit. But you get during this, there's like feats of strength happening to where the strongman has grabbed 3 black pearls and is spinning
Oh,
them
yeah.
by their anchors. And this is like action you would only expect from a Fast and Furious film.
Oh, fuck. No, this, to be honest, after seeing the last iteration, him picking up those 3 boats was fantastic. Like, because it doesn't show you at first. It's just he's just like spinning around this rock with these 3 ropes attached to him. Like, okay, he's doing something. And then it pans up into midair. It's just 3 fully loaded pirate ships with crews and everything getting swirled around the sky. And he just like chucks them like it's an Olympic sport.
Yeah, just to fucking hammer throw them into the entire Turkish army.
And just decimates everybody. Like this, it's so stupid, but it works so well. It's just kablooey, and all the Turks are just defeated. Whatever, knockout.
Yeah, good game, y'all. Napoleon hates
GG.
this though. And there's a fucking parade in Baron Munchausen's honor, and everyone's celebrating. The little girl's there, and his only idea is to fucking kill him. And he crawls up on this statue of death, which has been chasing Baron the entire film. And he fucking just blows the man's back out, like boom.
Yeah,
That was a dick move.
it's very like he was on the grassy knoll kind of moment, and Munchausen was just like, scooting through Dallas or something like that.
Back and to the left.
Back and to the
Yeah.
left.
And death erupts from inside this statue. And the visual of that as a child, the Grim Reaper was there on screen in the
Yeah.
flesh, and it was scary.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've mentioned it a few times so far. Like, this iteration of death is the most graphic too, the most detailed. It's very scary, very menacing, and it's a super treat to look at. I'm like, that is good, just visual storytelling just with the puppet alone. And what I
Mhm.
love about it is that the movie double downs on the fact that it's like a play within a movie, because death is clearly ripping the soul out of Baron Munchausen, and everyone around him isn't helping except for the kid.
Well, the little girl is trying to get there, and she's getting held back. Like, no, it's okay. It'll be okay. And she's like, I'm trying to scare away death. What the fuck are you guys doing?
Yeah.
Get him out of here.
It's like a dream. You can't run, you can't fight, you see this horrible thing happening, but you're just stuck. And I thought that worked really well.
I also really like the way they did the soul and the fucking hand of death. That creepy
The hand, yeah.
skeletal mitt going into his throat to take out that orb of light.
Yeah. And then he puts it right in a briefcase, and John Travolta and Sam Jackson take it away.
That's going on
Yeah.
eBay.
Guess what? That was only one of the many times that I've died.
And that was one of only the many occasions I faced my death, or something like that. Yeah, you did it better.
Yeah. And it turns out they're all feeling this. They're all there. His storytelling has them so enthralled. They're like, oh my God, we lived that? Did we live that? And he's like, bitch, I told a story so good it happened.
And then it became full circle, and I'm telling you about how the time I told the story.
Yes.
Get fucked.
This is what I do, motherfucker. Storyteller. Open the gates. Baron von David Blaine. Boom, the fucking army's gone.
And I love how the ships were still there, all busted, and everybody's just all dead in the desert. It's like, yeah, see, it happened. Told you so.
And his horse just shows up like, hey. And everybody's like, oh, and you were there, and you were there, and you were there, Aunt B, and you.
And it's almost like how you feel at the end of Total Recall. Like, was it a dream? Like, like what's happening?
Yes.
Yeah, that's why I thought this movie had a lot of Big Fish vibes for me. Like, you can tell that Big Fish drew a lot of inspiration from some of the themes that we had in this. And I absolutely love Big Fish. So, like,
Yeah.
to see those parallels, it gives this movie something a little bit more for me.
my opinion aside, like, yeah, a lot. I can definitely see now a lot of movies have pulled just like little bits from this movie, whether it be from like character direction or just like a little bit of art here and there. Like, I feel like this is a cult classic that I just stumbled upon.
Yeah, absolutely. When I watched it for the first time, I was like, yeah, this is a movie. It happened. It's a little bit crazy, a little bit wild. It's whatever. But the more we talked about it, the more I appreciated it for everything that it did as far as, like you said, the aesthetics, the dialogue, and, all these little vignettes that we talked about. There are movies elsewhere that have absolutely drawn inspiration from them, and for that, I have to give it a little bit more respect than I initially did. And I feel like it's something that if I watched it more and more and more, I'd like it more and more and more.
That's 100% where I'm at. It was the childhood movie. It grabbed my eye. It had, classic fairy tale themes throughout that as a child you can identify with and grasp at. And the more you watch it, the more, like, the characters still, to me, to this day, they're whatever. The Baron, he's fucking amazing. I love him. The little girl, she's a gem. And, you'll find your own people to like, whatever. But it's just fundamentals 101 on how to make a stylishly violent child's movie. It's amazing.
Stylishly violent.
I'll piggyback on that a little bit. This is definitely style over substance. The movie as a whole, it doesn't quite have the cohesiveness as Terry Gilliam's Better works. Like, there's really no middle act to this movie, like, at all. The stuff happens until the last 20 minutes. I mean,
stuff happens until it has happened.
Yeah, like, be that as it may, like, I don't like this movie, but, big but, because this is very important. This is a beautiful movie. This is stylistically fantastic. The set pieces are wonderful. Costumes are just great. Just like the whole play aesthetic is married beautifully. And it always gives you reminders like, hey, this is a play. Don't worry about it. Just keep watching. Creature effects are great. Puppetry is great. It's almost like how I feel about a lot of Kubrick movies. Like, the movie itself, whatever. But what was put together to make the movie, or the process of, is what is impressive and I enjoy.
So that was The Adventures of Baron Munchausen from 1988. If you have any strong feelings about it, or any comments at all, make sure to leave those down in that comment section below.
As I said before, make sure you subscribe, join the Brew Crew, but most importantly, hit that bell so you know when we have another one brewing.
Get out there and follow us on all of our different social medias. We got that Instagram, Twitter, Reddit, Facebook. Thanks to the Anchor app, we're on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. We're out here on YouTube, of course. And if you don't, then, we'll give you Munchausen by proxy. And that's where you can't tell if you're in a play or really living it.
Well, to be honest, having a case of Munchausen just really sounds like my bird's about to fall off. So.
Just the whole fucking bird.